You are listening to the Becoming the Wealthy You podcast with Jermaine Foley. If you're a woman who makes good money in your career or business, but you're not building wealth like you want to, then you're in the right place. In this podcast, you'll learn how to stop overspending, break free from the cycle of debt, save lots of cash, and become the wealthy woman you were born to be. Let's dive in. Well, hello, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. Okay, I want you to think back for a moment to this time last year. Maybe it was a day or two after Christmas, the holidays were winding down, and the new year was just around the corner. And I really want you to reflect back at that time point and be honest with yourself for a second. How many of you told yourself that 2025 was going to be the year when you got your money together? That this was finally the year you were going to get things under control, that you were going to stop repeating the same patterns, and you were going to be more intentional, you were going to get out of debt, you were going to save, you were going to invest, you were going to stop overspending. You felt like, yes, this is it. You felt hopeful. Maybe you felt like, yes, I'm motivated, I'm fired up, this is what I'm going to do. Now, I want you to fast forward to today. And again, I don't want you to judge yourself or anything. I just want you to be honest with yourself. Did that actually happen? Are you where you thought you'd be by now? Or are you realizing that despite your best intentions, you're still in a very similar place financially? Now, if you're listening to this and thinking, yeah, I really thought this year would be different, this episode is especially for you. Because today I want to talk about why that happens, not in a way that makes you feel bad about yourself or that makes you blame yourself, but in a way that actually helps you understand what's been going on so that this doesn't continue to be your story. We're going to talk about why feeling motivated, even really, really motivated, doesn't lead to lasting financial change. And more importantly, we're going to talk about what does. Okay, so let's talk about why motivation feels so powerful, why you get so excited, but then it just fades away, it disappears. That feeling that you get when you're all excited and fired up about getting your finances in order is real. That is a real emotion that's being felt in your body. It usually comes from a thought like, okay, I'm ready. I'm doing this. I'm going all in. Maybe you hear someone else's story and you think, oh my gosh, if she can do it, I can do it. This is my time. When you think thoughts like those, they feel really good. They create motivation, hope, energy, momentum. And as long as those thoughts stay alive, the motivation remains. It stays there. Speaking of hearing someone else's story, stay tuned because in a few minutes, I'm going to share with you a powerful example of what someone was able to accomplish after working with me in my one-to-one coaching program. She recently sent me an email. I got her permission. She said I can share it, and her results are amazing. She literally paid for her coaching more than 5 times over with the results that she was able to achieve. So stay tuned so that you can hear her results. But here's the part that most people don't realize. When life happens, you get a flat tire, an unexpected bill, a stressful week at work, what actually changes isn't your ability to stay motivated. What actually changes is your thinking. Most of us are wired to let circumstances automatically dictate what we think and feel. So if something happens like you don't follow the plan you had for yourself that month. Let's say you were planning to pay off a credit card and instead you kind of went on a shopping spree, right? Or maybe you couldn't pay off the credit card because life happened. You had to buy a new tire instead, right? What could happen is your brain will jump to thoughts like, see, this always happens. This is why I can't get ahead. Why do I even try? Those thoughts, they happen so fast that you barely even notice them. But what you do notice is the feeling that follows, usually something like discouraged, defeated, or frustrated. And once this happens, of course, motivation is nowhere to be found. And this is why motivation alone isn't enough to change. Motivation is a feeling. It's one that comes and it goes. What actually creates change is determination and commitment. The decision to stay in it no matter what, even when you don't feel like it, even when life is happening and nothing is going according to plan. You are committed and determined no matter what. And that's not something that just happens magically. It's something that you build up to. It's something that you practice. And it's something that gets a lot easier when you're not trying to do this all by yourself. Now, let's talk about what usually happens when motivation fades. You blame yourself and you beat yourself up. And this is where it really starts to mess with your confidence, because when motivation goes away, people don't think, oh, that makes sense. I'm letting my circumstances, like this flat tire that I'm dealing with, discourage me. Let me choose a different thought, right? We don't do that. Like I said earlier, circumstances happen. Things happen outside of your control. And what we notice is the feeling of discouragement, defeat, frustration. We don't notice that moment in between where we're thinking something that's actually making us feel that way. Okay? That level of awareness takes lots of skill. It takes practice. And most people haven't been taught how to do that yet. Instead, they make it mean something about themselves. They start saying things like, here I go again. I can't stay consistent. I must not want it bad enough, or I just can't trust myself with money. I'm undisciplined. And what makes those thoughts so painful is that it feels true. You believe them about yourself. Because what we've been taught directly and indirectly is that if you're consistent, that means you're a disciplined person. You have this character trait about yourself that makes you consistent. And so if you're inconsistent, then that must mean that you don't have the character trait, that there's something wrong with you, that you lack discipline and self-control. And you start to label yourself as an inconsistent person, like I just can't be consistent. And we believe, again, that successful people can, that they just have it, right? So when motivation disappears, you don't question the expectation that you have about yourself, that you're holding yourself to this standard that is really unrealistic. You start to question yourself. And every time it happens, it chips away at your belief, not all at once, but very slowly. And you start to really think that you're just too far gone and there's nothing that could help you and you're just a hot mess, right? We start to tell ourselves those things. And when we do that, we start collecting evidence. You remember every time you fell off, every time you started strong and didn't finish, every time you told yourself that this time would be different and it wasn't. And over time, the conclusion becomes, this just isn't something I'm good at. I'm bad with money. I have no self-control. I have no discipline. I'm a hot mess. My money is a hot mess. My finances are a hot mess. But here's the truth, and listen to me when I tell you this. This really makes a world of difference. Nothing about this means that you're incapable or undisciplined. It just means you've been measuring yourself against a standard that wasn't realistic in the first place. Motivation was never designed to be permanent. It's fleeting. It is based on your thoughts about what's going on in your life. And when you expect it to be there permanently, when you're giving all your power away to feeling motivated, if you think that the only way you can get out of debt, save, invest, and become wealthy is if you feel motivated all the time, then of course you don't want to try. Of course you want to give up, right? And you turn human experiences, human circumstances into a personality flaw. And when belief starts to erode like that, when you start discounting yourself and not believing that you can change, something else usually happens too. You stay in what I call consumption mode instead of action mode. You're listening to podcasts, reading books, learning all the things, taking in more information instead of implementing and doing what you already know. So this is why consuming content feels so much better than taking action. You listen to podcasts, read books, watch YouTube videos. sign up for a free workshop, or maybe even attend the workshop. These things give your brain that hopeful thought again, like, oh, I can do this. I'm going to change, right? And your brain is okay with you consuming and thinking that you're going to change and getting all excited. It wants you to do that. But what it doesn't want you to do is to take action, is to put in effort to change for real. And so after you consume new information, you feel better. Your brain feels productive, like you're doing something. But again, you're not doing anything. You're just consuming. And if you stay in consumption mode, listening, getting inspired without moving into action, without getting support, nothing actually changes. You just go through the loop again. You get it motivated, you feel good, and then something happens, and then you go back to feeling defeated and frustrated again because you didn't do what you have to do. You're relying on motivation instead of committing to change. And what happens? You don't move forward. You just become more aware, right? When you get back in that consumption loop where you're feeling happy again, inspired again, like on fire again, motivated again, you don't actually move forward. You just become more enlightened and aware, like, oh, that's what I can do. Oh, this is what's going on. But you don't take action. And awareness without action eventually turns back into frustration again. Now, I want to be clear. I'm not knocking content. Listen, I absolutely love that you all are listening to this show. I love that you all are getting value out of this show, but I don't want you to just listen to the show. I want you to take action either on your own or with me as your financial coach. Because listen, this podcast might not be able to get you back on track when something specific happens in your life. It doesn't check in on you when you're tired. It doesn't interrupt old patterns and habits in real time. And it doesn't help you decide what to do when things don't go like you planned it to go. That's why so many smart, capable women who make good money in their businesses and in their careers feel stuck. And I want to pause here for a moment to share a real world example with you, because what I'm saying isn't just theory. I want to talk to you about a woman who was an avid podcast listener. She deeply cared about her personal growth. She was smart, motivated. She made great money, but she realized that listening wasn't the same as changing. She noticed herself listening to the podcast, but not changing. And she made a decision to move from consuming content about getting her finances together to actually getting her finances together with support within my one-to-one money coaching program. And here's what she emailed me recently. Hi, Jermaine. I can't believe it, but I met my goal of having $9,000 saved by the end of the year. I've been meaning to do a recap from our work this last year, so here it is. 1, I paid off a $8,500 personal loan and $4,000 off in credit card debt. I went from $1,000 to $9,000 in my Life Happens Fund, which is 3 months of expenses. Got my cards refinanced through your suggestion and saved $300 of interest per month. Downsized my apartment to save $400 per month. Started a side hustle that adds $1,000 per month to my budget, and technically, I'm a small business owner now. I was able to pay for a $600 car expense and a toe surgery I've been needing for 15 years. And I started and funded a Roth IRA. I developed the 3-bucket money management system that is fully automated. I'm reaching my goals without feeling like I'm on a rice and beans deprivation regimen. I have guilt-free fun and purchases. I figured out what I like spending money on, which has resulted in less returns, less accumulated stuff, and a feeling of you can have that. I also opened up a high-yield savings account that makes me $30 per month from interest that goes into my Life Happens Fund. It feels cool to know that my money is making money. Just for you all to know, a Life Happens Fund is what I call your emergency fund, right? Because that money is set aside for life when it happens. So I want you to notice a few things about this client's testimonial. It shows that she had multiple wins, not just one, right? That's one of the things I really try to work with my clients on, is to give them wins. That gives you psychological motivation, right? Because you're thinking like, oh my gosh, I just did this. What's next? What's next? It also demonstrates behavioral changes, not just numerical changes, right? Anybody can do anything for a short period of time, but I want you to know that behavior change, when you practice these habits, they become permanent and they stick, and the numbers will keep going up and up and up. And I want you to know that this client didn't start off like just out of the gates with no issues, right? Things happen, life happened. She had multiple expenses, not just the car and the toe surgery. She had multiple expenses that she navigated through, but because she wasn't just relying on motivation, she truly committed, and I helped her to do that. None of those things derailed her long term. Yeah, she may have felt defeated and discouraged at times, but because she was committed, she got back on track. I also want you to know that this reinforces my do both philosophy, which means that you can build wealth and enjoy life at the same time. You heard her say that she is still able to buy things, but she does it intentionally, and she's building wealth. And the last thing I want you to know about this testimonial is that this is just the beginning for her. And her coaching has paid for itself at least 5 times over just in this first year. So for any of you who are reluctant to invest in yourself, you may see that, hey, coaching is not free. It costs money. It's an investment in yourself. I want you to know that if you come into the program, I've never seen a client who actually took the program seriously and followed everything that is laid out for them and used all of the resources that's available, including myself and the coaching program, the course that I have, all the support and accountability and guidance that you get. I've never seen someone not pay for the course over and over again. I've never seen someone not get their money back. I never saw someone implement this course and lose out on their investment. They double, triple, quadruple, and as you can see, 5 times their investment. And that's just in the first year. Imagine next year, in the year after that, in the year after that, because now she has behavioral changes that are permanent. And so she'll be good for the rest of her life, right? So the investment could be worth millions if you implement everything and you take it seriously and you commit. You got to commit though. So the reason why I wanted to share her story isn't to say that coaching is the only way. That's the only way you're going to get your money together. No, I don't believe that. But I did it to show you what's possible when someone decides to stop doing it alone and move on from just consuming to actually implementing with support. So for those of you who are ready for this level of change, I know you're out there. I know you're listening. Going back to how I began this podcast, asking you to reflect on last year and if you made the gains you were hoping to this year. If you're like, no, this time next year, when I do that reflection, I am going to say, yes, I did it. I changed. I know some of you, that's what you want. That's what you need. That's what you've been looking for. I know you want this. If that's you, you're invited to book a complimentary money coaching consultation where we'll look at where you are, where you want to go, and I'll tell you exactly how I can help you to get there with support, guidance, accountability, and a proven track record. All you have to do is go to jermainefoley.com/consult. That's Jermaine with a G, Foley.com/consult to book your complimentary session. We will meet over Zoom and we'll literally look at where you are, where you want to go. It's a safe place. Most people feel so relieved afterwards. And I'll tell you exactly how I can help you to change your financial situation for good in my one-to-one coaching program. You can also just click on the link in the show notes to get signed up. All right, I will see you all next week. Bye-bye. Hey, if money is the one area of life you just can't seem to figure out, Even though you make good money, you're not alone. That's why you're invited to book a complimentary one-to-one money consultation with me so that we can figure out how to solve your biggest money challenges. To sign up, simply go to jermainefoley.com/consult or check out the show notes. Hope to meet you soon.